I'll start. Hi everyone, I'm Pat Gallagher. VSB grad 2006. After spending about 9 years out in New York in finance and advertising, wanted to get back involved with college athletics. I was a student athlete here. And so very recently just got hired by Villanova IMG College. We handle all the corporate sponsors for the athletic department. So hopefully after this, I'll get to see all you guys at the Villanova game tonight. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Hope. I'm a junior here, marketing management double major with a minor in international business. I'm from Chicago, and
Jason Ferreira, I'm with Ernst & Young. I'm a senior manager in their assurance practice here in Philly. I work in their financial services office. Also a Villanova grad, 2007. And so looking forward to being with you guys today, and go Cats tonight.
Nice.
My name is Tim Glenn. I'm from Deloitte. I'm an assurance manager in technology risk. So that means I support external and internal audits around technology risk, so the financial reporting systems. Looking forward to kind of giving you guys some advice on interviews. And feel free to reach out with me any feedback or anything if you have any questions.
Good afternoon. I'm Betty Kozlowski. I'm with KPMG. I'm a director in our national campus recruiting practice. Prior to that, I spent many years on the audit trail doing audits as a senior manager, and then switched over to campus recruiting. I was responsible for the Virginias, the Pennsylvanias, and recently took on a new role where I'm responsible for our national programs with faculty relations. Delighted to be here, get back to Villanova lots, and looking forward to having some great interaction and getting lots of your questions answered so that you'll be really successful in getting that job that you want. We'll talk with you later.
Hi everyone, my name is Jackie Eckhoff and I'm with PricewaterhouseCoopers. I am the market sourcing leader for Philadelphia Metro. So what that means is I oversee the national recruiting strategy and implement it appropriately for both the Philadelphia and Harrisburg offices. I oversee a team of 7 recruiters who are then responsible for executing that strategy on each of our campuses. Similar to Betty, I'm really looking forward to spending the next hour or so with each of you and giving you an opportunity to ask us questions so that you can best prepare yourself for interview scenarios that are to come.
Hey guys, I'm Zen Wolfson. I'm a freshman from Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm a freshman, so my bio is really not that interesting, but I hope you guys enjoy the next hour.
How are you guys doing? My name is Mike Diolio. I'm a senior finance and accounting major from Springfield, Pennsylvania, and I'm looking forward to giving you guys some examples of things to do and some things not to do in an interview.
okay, great. Thanks so much. So quick, just want to mention this before anybody thinks I'm going to mention it again at the end. But tomorrow we have an etiquette luncheon, so just quick shameless plug. It's walk-in. Now you can come in any time. It's at from 1:30 to 2:30 in Gary, and it's free, and it's with what's her name?
Starts at 1 o'clock.
Starts at 1 o'clock. Excuse me. And it's free, and it's just etiquette luncheon on do's and don'ts when you're eating with a professional. I'll talk more about that at the end. Okay, so now we're going to start with the Skype interview. So this is I don't know if any of you are planning on going abroad, but these Hope studied abroad in Copenhagen, and it happens a lot. You have to figure out how to be successful and effective in a Skype interview. So we're gonna play that out now. Okay. Is he gonna call me? Is he gonna call me? Okay. Hi, how are you doing today?
Hi, how are you? Are you Hope?
Yes, I'm Hope.
Hi, I'm Pat Gallagher.
It's frozen.
How's your day going so far?
Oh, it's going really well. How's your day going?
It's good. It's good. So first and foremost, thank you so much for taking the time. We're really excited to talk to you and talk about the marketing coordinator position for the brand. So why don't you start us off by just telling me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Hope. I'm a marketing and management double major with a minor in international business. I have been abroad twice. I'm currently a junior. So freshman year I went to Singapore, and then in my junior year I went to
Copenhagen, and I've had a few internship experiences with Cognito, which is a PR and marketing firm that does marketing for financial companies such as like Bloomberg and JP Morgan, stuff like that. And I had a lot of responsibilities there between being able to handle the daily activities within my team and other PR activities. Besides that, I'm really excited to hear about what the opportunities are with the job today.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you have a lot of great experience, and we'll dive into that in a second. I guess with all that experience and all those different internships and the places that you've worked, what kind of inspired you to apply to this particular position at Carolines?
This position is the marketing coordinator position, and working with a team. Oh no. Is like really exciting for me, and I'm just like looking to go into brand management. So this is a great way to start out with American Airlines, and it's a global brand. I've been all over the world, I think I'm really excited about the globalness and the position that involves a lot of teamwork.
Excellent. So I guess maybe we'll start talking about some particulars, whether it's one of your co-ops or maybe an experience here at Villanova. If your colleagues or your coworkers are being interviewed, how do you think that they would describe your strengths or your weaknesses?
I think one of my strengths people talk about would be like my eye contact. I definitely make sure that I look at people when I talk to them, and also I'm very communicative. Sorry. I'm very good at communication, so that's important with eye contact and everything, but I was able to speak in front of 800 students for the Villanova School of Business and tell them all about my freshman experience.
Wow.
So that's a way that my strengths play into action here. And then weaknesses, I would say maybe that I take on a little too much. I'm very busy with all my activities, but I definitely find time to make sure everything gets done. And that's something that some people would say could be a weakness, but I think I make it into a positive.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, we definitely, we want to make sure that our time is as productive as possible.
Sorry.
We're going to cut it here.
Okay. You want me to
That
edit?
could actually happen during the interviews.
Yeah, that does happen. That's definitely happened. Do we just end it?
Yeah, you can send it.
Cool.
I know, right? You're hired.
Thank you.
So, has anyone done a Skype interview before? Anyone? I mean, they're definitely tough. I know Hope has actually done a couple of them, right?
Yeah, like quite a few.
We'll just take a couple minutes here for you guys to pepper questions up at us. If you have anything, feedback or whatever, definitely, don't be shy to raise your hand and let us know. But, Skype interviews can be tough. And as you saw, with internet connections or whatever, like that can be tricky, right? And we all have our tech issues. But if anyone kind of want to start off, like maybe something they observed within the 2-3 minute interview, we'll kind of start from there, and we'll give you some of our feedback as well. So, John, do you mind if I call you out and start you with you?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if that was planned, but her phone going off.
Your phone went off? No, it was planned.
So I'd say, I don't know, to maybe put your phone on silent if you're on a Skype interview.
Yeah, it's just a simple thing. Yes?
She seemed to be rifling through her notes to find the answer.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. Sometimes, and, Hope you could speak to this as well, but sometimes in a Skype interview, you can become a little bit more lax, if you will, because you're not like right in front of the person. And just like when you have an open book test, right? You have all your notes. Sometimes you get distracted by your notes, but if you just did the homework beforehand, you probably already know the answer. You don't have to go check your notes. It's kind of the same thing. You don't always need to go look at your notes, but kind of a tip is if you do feel like you need to reference something or reference a story or a particular word that you want to use, you can legitimately say, excuse me for a second, I jotted something down. I just want to take a moment and just, make sure I get it right. That's okay. And you're just talking to another human being. We don't always have the right words or the right thing to say. So that's why the notes are important to have. Just don't ruffle through them like Hope did.
Yeah, you can. It's pretty easy to notice. You might not think because they're not there that they're not going to notice that you're like flipping through a page or something. But it's definitely important. Like you need to prepare just as you would if you were in person with them, because you might have like all these things written down. But what if you don't have access to it? Then you're not going to have any of your notes. So just prepare just as you would for a regular interview.
Yeah, absolutely. How is the lighting on my end? Because I couldn't see on that side. Could you guys see me pretty clearly? So that's definitely something important, both for the interviewer and the interviewee. Make sure the background and the lighting is just simple. It doesn't need to be. You don't need to put your trophies in behind you. Just make your shrine, your Hope shrine. Make sure it's clean. And just simple. Did anyone else notice anything about Hope's attire?
One thing, no, like the attire, but she
Yeah.
said that her strength was that she's good at like eye contact.
Nice.
And then she was like looking everywhere else, but not at like.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked up on that too. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, he told me to do that, but yeah, no, it's important too. I mean, even though it's a camera, it can be awkward, and sometimes you're like, do I look at the camera? Do I look at the computer? But I mean, you don't have to like focus too much on that, as long as you're making sure you're not like looking off the distance. Like you need to treat it as if he's right in front of you, and you're gonna maintain a better relationship that way.
Absolutely. Anybody have anything else?
Oh yeah, the attire thing.
Oh yeah. So she rocks some sweatpants.
Yeah.
What's your feeling on that?
And like, why?
Can you get away with it or not?
I think I've actually heard people whose interviewers have asked them to stand up. That's never happened to me. So I wouldn't, I don't know, not from personal experience, but I definitely would I like to like be dressed in what I would normally be in an interview, just because then it makes you feel like you're actually in the interview. Like, I don't know, if half of me was like this, I would feel a lot more relaxed. So yeah, definitely just like wear the whole thing. You never know, someone could actually ask you to stand up, and you could like, that would be mortifying if that was the case. So
Yeah. Kind of to tack on that, one thing is just kind of a tip or a trick. If you do find yourself in a Skype interview, they tell you sometimes it can help if you actually stand, whether you put it up on a podium or a tall desk or a bunch of books or whatever the case may be. Your projection and your posture is that much better, and it may not seem like it, but when you're standing, you're just, you feel a little bit more confident and in the zone. So that's like something, especially too, if you're rocking sweatpants,
it's not gonna work.
Yeah, it's not gonna work. So, yeah.
I'll mention one thing just from an employer perspective, because I think you shared that you had gone through a number of different Skype interviews when you were looking to study abroad and what have you. From an employer perspective, we're often interviewing candidates for internship or full-time positions when they are actually studying abroad.
That's what I did.
So it's important that you understand that your peer group is actually interviewing in person. So to your point that you need to take the interview very seriously is incredibly important, because you have the, I guess, sometimes the disadvantage to be able to make as much impact over a video interview as somebody who is sitting in a room across from the manager, the hiring manager, has. So it's really important that you really do take these Skype interviews incredibly seriously, and you do come prepared, and you have your backup plans. You don't have any distractions that are in front of you.
That's a good point also. yeah, you definitely feel like you're at a disadvantage. I definitely did, but that just made me be more kind of aggressive when I reached out to them before and after my interview. Just because you're not going to be able to make that impression in person, definitely just like reaching out via email, even if you think it's an overboard situation, just, I mean, it probably isn't. You need to like show your interest.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, and I love that you brought that up, because that is really important, that sometimes you forget that, you know, you're not there. You're 3,000 miles away sometimes, you know, even further. So you have to understand you are up against, you know, a difficult situation. But if you do the homework and the research beforehand, you're going to feel so good when that Skype interview is done. And then, you know, you can go put your sweatpants on if you want. Yes.
Pat, just to follow up on that, remember, even though it's a Skype interview, still send your thank you notes.
Absolutely.
Still do the follow-up. The disadvantage you have is you don't get to be at the meet and greet the night before. So you may need to do a little bit different icebreaker to introduce them, to show, I'm interested in your company, and not just, hi, here I am for the interview. So you're going to need to help to break that ice also a little bit differently, because you didn't get that. You need to connect with them somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will also say this is my own personal kind of mission statement, if you will. But I'll just say, you know, I've now had like 2 or 3 different jobs, and some of those jobs I've been fortunate enough to interview people to work for my team, and it really rings true when that person is really interested in the company and shows that they've done their research for the company, and they're, you know, willing and ready to ask questions. And, you know, on a Skype interview, if the internet is going out and it's, you know, frustrating a little bit, remain calm and remain patient to get a chance to ask your questions. Because just as much as they're interviewing you, you know, you're interviewing them, and you want to take that opportunity, as, you know, limited time as it is, to get as much information as you can. And my own kind of personal mission statement with this, and you know, I mentioned this to John at one point during another presentation, and, you know, this is like my kit for success, and I think it holds true in an interview thing, is, you know, the K, the I, the T is, you know, kindness, integrity, and thought. When you're in an interview, just be kind. You know, don't act like you're more important than you're not. Just have kindness toward that interview, respect their time. Integrity, so be true to yourself, and, you know, don't lie through your interview. Don't make up a story just to make up a story, but also be true to yourself and also true to them. So have integrity with that. And then thought, that goes in with the homework and the research, you know, beforehand, and put a lot of time and thought into whether or not you want this job. And if you can keep that quote unquote kit for success together, you know, I think that interview person will look at you and they'll very much respect you and say, all right, you know, that was a strong candidate. We're going to have a tough time making this decision by not taking her. So that's kind of my own little personal motto, if you will. So, yep.
Okay, so now we're going to have the panel come up. So just a little information about the scenario. So these are less common. We're having a 3-person panel interviewing 1 student. And these are less common, especially in an undergrad situation. But, you know, imagine yourself, you know, you've graduated, you have a few years of work under your belt, and you're looking to transition into a new position, and you're interviewing with the team at the company. This is the kind of situation you'd be in. So it's higher up, different kind of questions, but, you know, which will be useful for you anyway.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, Mike. I'm Betty Kozlowski.
Mike,
I'm so
nice to
glad
meet
that
you.
you're here. I'm a director, and I brought my engagement team along with me today so that you'll have a chance to meet different people who you'll be working with, and we'll get a chance to find out more about your strengths and weaknesses. I'd like to introduce.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Mike.
Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you.
Why don't you have a seat, Mike, and we can get started.
Of course.
So Mike, thank you for coming in today. We know we've had a few meetings before this for the Big Four firm, and this is for the analyst role. Just a little background. We're going to ask you some questions. There may be some follow-up questions around some different topic areas. We just ask that you'll answer them thoroughly and to the best of your ability, and we'll have some good conversation around this. Okay?
Of course.
So, for your role, why do you think for this analyst role you'd be the right fit for this position?
So I'm actually very excited about this position because of the people who I've talked to who work for the firm, who I've kind of gotten to encounter. Obviously, this is my first time meeting you guys, but I've done some networking with a few other analysts who currently hold the job, who have interned with your firm before, and I feel that the way they've described the job to me has been in line with what I'm looking for. Talking about the types of tasks they've worked on, the types of things they've done, or it's kind of in line with what I'm interested. I'm obviously coming from finance and accounting dual major background, and you guys as an accounting firm, I feel like based on what I understand of the position, I'd be an asset to what you guys have to offer.
Mike, if I could just play off of that a little bit.
Of course.
What do you feel is missing in your current position, which is wanting you to look for that next opportunity?
So right now, I feel as if I'm looking for an additional challenge that is within my, my scope of education right now. Like I'm looking for an opportunity that involves all of my accounting background, everything that I've learned so far, and I just want to find the next challenge. Where I'm at right now, I'm looking for something new people, new faces, new projects. I've gotten to the same kind of cogwheel where I'm doing the same thing over and over, and I'm just ready for the next part of my career, the next step on the path.
All right, so Mike, I want to throw out a situation to you. You're working with us, we're your team on an engagement, and you receive something from a client and you find a discrepancy. And I'm your immediate report and you tell me and I sort of brush it off that it's nothing, but you're still uncomfortable. What would you do next?
Right, so I've actually been in a very similar situation like that before while I was in school, and it was a situation where I was leading a group and some of the money was kind of not being tracked appropriately by an independent committee that was sort of, kind of tracking that, making sure everything was taken care of. And in that situation, the first thing that I did was kind of gathered all the facts, tried to investigate myself, what was going on, make sure that I understood, because having already approached you once, having you not taken it too seriously, I wanted to make sure that my ducks would be in a row, I had everything checked and crossed off, that I knew that I was presenting you again with a serious problem. Next, I would want to make sure that I approach a situation recognizing that you had already sort of dismissed the problem before, but as your analyst, I still felt that this was a problem. I still felt that this needed to be attended to. And now, instead of just going with you with my original thought, my original inkling, I now have done some research, backed it up, and have some support to show you to kind of prove my case that this is a problem that really needs to be addressed.
Okay, and I still dismiss it. What do you do now?
You still dismiss it. Well, in that situation, obviously I have to take you under advisement in the fact that you are my superior and I need to report to you. But if I truly believe at this point that given the facts that I have this problem, I'm going to escalate that further.
Great. Did you have any questions for us today, Mike, around anything specific?
Sure. One of the things that I'm interested in is whenever I apply for a job or have been in interview settings, everybody likes to talk about their favorite part of their job. Oh, I love interacting with the people, or I love the team I'm on, or I love the work. What would you say would be the most difficult part of your job, and how do you kind of overcome that?
I guess I'll start. A lot of times, there's a lot of challenges around time management. We're handling multiple tasks, multiple clients at the same time. We have a lot of time pressures on us in terms of deadlines. And so you really need to stay organized and communicate with your team members about that. So I think that's one of the most difficult aspects. And I'd love to hear more about any examples you have sort of in dealing with time management and handling those sorts of things.
And Mike, if I could play off of that a little bit, could you tell us, teamwork is really important and we all have each other's backs, and the way we make it work is if he has something he has to get to, he needs to tell us in advance, and perhaps we can juggle assignments and things. But teamwork, as you've seen, as we've talked about, is really important. Tell me about a situation when you were a part of a team that had low productivity, and how did you handle that to change the dynamics?
Definitely. During my senior year of college, I was on a team that was responsible for running a new philanthropy initiative that we had started at Villanova. It was called Nova Dance, and the goal of that was to put together a 10-hour dance marathon raising money for children afflicted with pediatric cancer. I had started that initiative during my junior year, and this was now the second year of operation. So when starting a new group on campus, it tends to be something along the lines of, you have an idea, you want to push it forward, you get a bunch of your friends on board. So now in my second year, we're trying to push forward, make new goals, beat last year. And I still have this committee full of my friends who were originally there to support me, and now, a year later, some of them sort of kind of weren't as invested in the cause as I was, and some of them are. So the problem was twofold. One, I was trying to run a committee of people who were not as invested in the project. Two, they were my friends. So it was a situation where they weren't, my employees, or I wasn't their superior. They weren't my coworkers, but rather my friends, as well as people who I was kind of depending upon to, work well. So the way I approached that situation was, first I kind of sat them down and said, we need to move forward. We need to get these done. We need to meet our goals. First thing I wanted to do with them was, instead of kind of communicating via text message and group me in the ways that things have been informal, I formalized our communication and formalized our goals. Instead of saying, our event is this date, we want to get this done, I said, by here, this time, we need to do this. And as they started to kind of step up to the plate, I recognized that and thought that this had been, a solution to the problem that worked well.
It's hard starting with friends and then trying to get them to the next level, and I hope they're still your friends.
They are.
Great, I think that pretty much wraps up today. Anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank
Great.
you. Unless you guys have any more questions for me.
No, thanks for spending time with us, and we'll be back to you within the next week.
Thank you.
We're done. This scenario was a little different for all. We don't usually do a group interview, and so there may be other professions that do it more so. So we tried to, I think the things to be aware of in a group interview is that there'll be different dynamics, and for him it's probably challenging. Who do you look at? Who are you, who are you speaking to? And I thought from my perspective he did a nice job of working the group and being respectful, and we tried not to stumble over each other too.
Yeah, typically at the entry-level positions, you will meet with each one of us, but at a different period. And then we will actually come behind the scenes and discuss what went well, what didn't went well, with the same and similar questions, right? Things around teamwork, things around behavioral versus, specifics on the actual job. In the group panels in these types of interviews, there will most likely be a vetting of your knowledge and experiences. So it's those things that you did learn in class, those things that you will be not super technical, but will be trying to see that you know a little bit of accounting theory or how to put together a free cash flow statement, or at least the basics behind it. So our questions were probably a little more geared towards that soft skills side for the behavioral. But in an interview, if you have a panel meeting, don't be surprised if they bring you in. Somebody will be there to check that you know what you're talking about. I've seen it in higher levels. For those interviews, they will bring in 3 individuals to kind of vet with the team.
Yeah, I was just going to ask before I share anything else, did anybody have any observations in terms of things that, looking outside, they thought either went really well or some things that they thought were sort of slips along the way? Yeah.
In the beginning, you shook the first 2 employers' hands, but then you went for the more casual fist bump, so maybe that was
Yeah, he knew we were Villanova grads and he thought we were on that level,
Right.
I guess.
Or not.
And I think the point there is that whether you're meeting with someone who's been with the company 30 years, 10 years, their first year, you still always need to have that professionalism and treat them all the same, because you don't know the background and what their role is. And you may meet interns or they are just as important. So always err on the side of, well, I'm an accountant, so err on the conservatism side.
Suggestions that I give are repeat names. Nobody hates hearing their name, right? That's how, if you even hear me in the interview, I asked Mike, what do you think about this? Mike, what do you think about that? It helps you remember, especially if you're in a panel discussion.
Yeah.
Because there's 3 people now that you have to remember, not just the guy that you're sitting across, the guy or woman that you're sitting across from, and you have to remember their name. You now have to remember 3 individuals' names and do exactly what you would do for any other interview. Follow up, thank them for their time, and basically the interview.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the other things that I thought was positive was I threw out a question asking about a scenario, how he'd handle this, hypothetical scenario. And, he not only gave a real life example, which is important, but he also sort of didn't automatically dismiss me and said, oh, I'd go right to, your boss, or I'd go right to the partner or the director. So it's important that when you're in the room, that was sort of a very light way of doing it, but know the audience, know who's there, make sure you're not going to offend somebody. So as much as you can, find out who you're going to be interviewing with ahead of time, find out what roles they have at the firm, just so that when you're going to make a point who you're addressing, and you're not going to make a point that may not sit well with somebody who's on the panel.
And at the end, if we didn't give cards, but I would suggest if you're in a group situation to get the cards of everybody in that group, again, because you'll have different levels of contact with them throughout, and even if it doesn't work out 5 years down the road, you've still got some contact information for those people.
Same thing as you're coming in, greeting them, you thank them as you're leaving, and you can use that as a remembering their name, remembering who you had that discussion on. A few things that I picked up and visually you want to definitely do with a group panel is make eye contact with every person on the panel. It's one person that's asking the question, but like we got beforehand and said we want to know the answers to these questions, everybody's interested in the answer. That's why they have the group panel. And 2, maybe they're not fully interested in why Jason asked that question, but it shows them that you recognize that they haven't left the room. Mike did a pretty good job. He was hitting at each of those. You can even take a second, think about it, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, just looking at people while you're talking. It goes a long way of, hey, he's interested in talking to me, and then everybody on the panel.
I think you'll find 2. I've done 2 of us with one person. We don't know each other, and so I think in a panel you'll get a little bit more play and pushback versus what we did, because we were all very respectful to each other, because
Right.
We just didn't feel comfortable showing our personality, so to speak. So I think in a real panel situation you'll start to see the company's personality, the team's personality, and you'll be able to assess, how do I fit into that group, and could I see myself being successful with them?
Any other questions, comments? Yeah?
And that was just like a great point that you ended on, because I've actually done a group interview and it was kind of hard because they were all like really vibing, because like they know each other really well, and I was kind of like on the outside, like, okay, like I don't get the jokes, I don't really.
Yeah, and they have to be very careful about that. Yeah.
But that's just a good point to like remember that like they know each other really well, so just try and like be respectful and then like you don't like try and like
Yeah,
overcompensate.
but it sounds like they should have made you feel a little bit more comfortable in that scenario. Yeah.
I like the personality.
Yeah.
They just like have strong personality.
Yeah.
Was it a situation where it was not the first interview?
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it was a second
Right.
interview. And it was just like 2.
So one of the things that you can use is to catch up with the individual as you're coming and greeting. If there is that small networking time, there isn't always. Oh, how is your team doing on XYZ account? If you talked about it with them before. So then you build the rapport and the relationship. It's like a mini networking session. And then you're not going to totally feel comfortable, but you at least have, hey, they're interested. You're interested in what they said, and they may kind of tail that back a little bit about talking stuff you're not even aware of.
Great.
Good point.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, so for the last scenario, we're going to do traditional one-on-one. And this is, this can be for anything from an entry level to, post-grad kind of position the first one. So if you want to
Hi, Zen. How are you?
Oh, hi. Zen Wilson. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. My name's Jackie Eckhoff. Thank you for spending some time with me today.
Oh yeah, great to be here. I'm really interested in the position, so I'd like to hear what you have to say and I guess offer what I have to say too.
Absolutely, Zen. So why don't we start the conversation? Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I'm currently a freshman at Villanova University. I grew up in Japan actually.
Wow.
And spent pretty much my entire life up to high school there. And in high school, I went off to boarding school in northern Massachusetts. And in the meantime, my parents moved to Hawaii, so I kind of have a really diverse background when it comes down to that. And right now, I'm thinking about studying finance and accounting. That's why I'm very interested in interviewing with you guys at PwC, just to kind of get to know the company and figure out if that's something I want to go into in terms of my career.
Fantastic. Well, we have a lot of opportunities that are available for freshmen and sophomores through a number of our different leadership programs. And these programs are meant to give you an opportunity to explore yourself, explore the firm, and explore the profession so that you can ultimately decide if a career at PwC is something that you're looking for. So I'd love to take the opportunity today, Zen, to talk with you a bit about leadership. At PwC, we believe in leaders at all levels, and we want to identify individuals who are able to deliver results in a responsible, authentic, and passionate manner. So my first question for you is, when I look at your resume, it's very clear that you have strong academics while also being very involved on campus. Can you talk to me about a time when you've had to balance your work with your extracurricular responsibilities?
Well, Jackie, for example, I'll just throw out right now. I think as Villanova students, one of the really balances we have to make is between academics, extracurriculars, and professional activities. So right now, in terms of extracurricular activities, I'm on the VSB steering committee. So right now, we're right in the middle of that. Even though preparations really start to heat up as it gets closer to the event, especially during the event. So that's kind of been on my mind. But also in terms of that, academics are starting to pick up. It's right around this time where a lot of classes are starting to have their first tests and first papers due. And on top of that, I've been interviewing for you guys, so I've been juggling all three of them at the same time. And what I've learned from having to juggle all three is how to use my time more effectively and how to really compartmentalize my time and make sure when I am doing something, I'm focused entirely on that and not really distracted. One of the traps a lot of people, I guess my peer group will fall into is, we'll be doing work but also have Facebook open on the side or have our phone out. And I've tried to eliminate that so I can make my time and work more efficient. And that's kind of how I've been able to balance all of it.
Great. So you've identified the importance of being present in any interaction that you're in.
Yep.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So I'd now like to talk a little bit and transition about a time when you had to help a team member. So I can see here that you're engaged in the Equity Society. And I know that in that organization you have the opportunity to work alongside your peers.
Yeah.
Could you maybe think of an example from that organization or perhaps another experience that you've had in how you've helped a team member who was struggling to complete an assignment?
Yeah, you brought up Equity Society. The one example I'd say for that was during the process of getting into the society. So what that entailed was having to write a stock report, and it was very competitive. So there was a kind of bit of underlying kind of, rivalry between people who were applying. But what happened was someone who lived on my hall was actually struggling with the report.
Okay.
And they had a couple questions about basically a certain way to model the potential earnings of a certain company. And even though I was kind of hesitant at first that this person is also applying for the same spot I'm taking, and potentially in a scenario they could be the one in society and I could not be, I just had to kind of put that past me and realize that this person was a friend, and I had the tools I needed to to really succeed and kind of add to their report. So I shared the knowledge that I gained from kind of the independent research I'd done, whether it be on the internet or talking to upperclassmen, and he was able to kind of use the resources I gave him and come to his own conclusion and include that into his report. And as a result, we both got into society. So it was a win-win at the end of the day.
Wow, that's fantastic. And you were able to put helping another individual above your competition, if you will, and getting in. And I'm sure you now have another trusted resource and advocate for you that's within the organization. That's fantastic. So how do you think that would ultimately translate into a career at PwC?
So I think something that's really important in careers, especially at PwC, is the whole team-oriented idea. I think when an individual thinks that they're more important than a team, that leads to a lot of internal strife and doesn't really lead to the best productivity overall. So I think by what this example will show that is really I have a team first kind of mentality, and I'm not. If we're working a team and let's say there's only a couple spots open for partner or whatever position is above, I'm not going to put that ahead of kind of making sure the entire team succeeds. That's going to be my first priority always, and never kind of trying to take credit for myself or trying to maybe push someone off to the side so I could get ahead of them.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that, because your success is ultimately the team's success, and your team members, that ultimately translates as well. So I'm glad to hear you say that. So at PwC, we have a very strong coaching and development type feel. We want to make sure that we're setting individuals up for success, and we oftentimes will give individuals real-time and in-the-moment feedback. I'm curious if you can tell me about a time when you received developmental feedback about a project that you were working on.
Yeah, it's not really going to be about a specific project, but it's going to be about my writing skills overall.
Absolutely.
Back in high school, my writing skills really weren't up to par of what they should have been. Kind of a big problem I faced throughout my academics was that I'd have the thoughts in my head, but wouldn't exactly be able to translate that onto paper and into writing. And I quickly recognized this through my grades that was something I needed to work on. So I kind of went to look at the resources I could go to help me improve my writing. So I'd go to the writing center. I talked to classmates, I talked to my parents, I talked to people who were much better at writing than I was. I had them look over my paper. One of the things I did was start incorporating more drafts before I produced the final one to turn in. So before I might not even written a draft, but I decided to kind of go through the process of writing multiple drafts, taking time in between each one to refresh my brain and look at each thing individually. And basically through those processes, I was able to improve my writing, and I feel like I'm much more effective in communicating my ideas now.
Wonderful. So you really utilize the resources around you to turn a weakness into an opportunity for growth. Fantastic. Well, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today, Zen. I'm curious if you have any questions of me.
No, absolutely not. I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay. Well, a member of the recruiting team will be in touch with you over the next 2 weeks to discuss the next steps in the process
Great.
for you.
Yeah. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me today. Okay, so what does everyone think went well or not so well during that conversation? Yeah.
I think you really answered your questions very well. You gave significant responses. It wasn't just oh yeah, I did that. I was a good team member. Really good examples and showed yourself possibly.
And he ultimately showed too how that could translate into a career at PwC and how it remains relevant to the experiences that he could have at a professional services firm. I agree. And I think one thing that you did too, Zen, was I asked you a question specific around when you received feedback on a specific project, and you pivoted a bit. And you said, it's not necessarily a project that I've received feedback on, but maybe a skill. Or in your example, it was how you were able to communicate in writing. So oftentimes you'll find that interviewers will ask you different questions, and it's not to say that you have to answer very specifically, but if you have an opportunity or an example of something you have prepared for that interview and you feel that it can fit into that conversation or to that question, make sure that you provide that, because that's clearly an area of comfort. You've been able to utilize this communication example in interviews potentially before, but you were able to introduce that, and while it's not exactly what I was looking for, it got to the same behaviors that I was looking for in terms of how you were able to utilize the resources around you and turn a weakness into an opportunity and a strength. What else? Sorry?
I find that at the end, if you have questions, you should come up with questions before, just because it shows a lot of interest within the company, and you should come up with a list of questions before you start.
I would 100% agree. As a recruiter, one of my pet peeves is when individuals don't have questions, or when they share with you, I really asked the host or the greeter before the interview all the questions that I've had. And for many of you, you'll be attending, maybe on-campus events where you have a pre-interview reception the night prior, or maybe you'll be, on your third interview of the day in a group office visit scenario. You should never say you have no questions. Ask the exact same question of every single person that you meet with so that you get multiple perspectives. That's what's going to ultimately allow you to make the decision on the firm that you want to join, because at the end of the day, when you're interviewing for companies like PwC, KPMG, Deloitte, EY, we all do the same things. The difference is the culture and the client base, but more importantly, the reason that you're going to, or more often the reason that you're going to join a firm is because of the culture. And you're not going to understand that culture unless you ask those questions and you get an appreciation for all of those different perspectives. So that's a little piece of advice that I share with individuals, because sometimes you will feel that you're questioned out, but make sure you ask that same question of everyone that you meet with. Mike earlier, I think he mentioned in his group interview, what is it about the culture? What is oftentimes, what is it about the culture that has made you want to stay at this company for so long? So ask individuals those types of questions, and ask it of everyone you meet with. Anything else? Wonderful. Well, I think that Zen did a phenomenal job, and I think that we have to give him another round of applause because he is a freshman, and he did a fantastic job. So kudos to you. Oh, and I have another tidbit. So we're talking about eye contact. One of the things that I shared with when I was in a Backpack the Briefcase class last week, oftentimes it feels uncomfortable to make eye contact for the duration of an interview. But one of the things that I do, in addition to repeating names, I think that's a phenomenal trait because it allows it to really stick with you. But the other piece is to remember the person's eye color. When you're sitting on the other side of the table, try to remember what color eyes they have, and that will allow you to have that comfortable level of eye contact.
Great. Okay, so those are all the scenarios for today. If you have any questions, feel free to stick around, and the employers will be happy to answer them for you. One last quick mention about tomorrow. We have the etiquette luncheon with Lower Caton. Starts at 1 o'clock. It's free. You don't need any registration. So if you have time or you're interested, it's etiquette luncheon with a global flair. So if you're thinking about studying abroad or just interested in global cultures, definitely come check it out tomorrow at 1 o'clock in Gary. So yeah, thanks so much for coming, and hopefully we see you at other VSB week events.